Epictetus was born in Hierapolis almost 2000 years ago and was then brought to Rome as a slave, where he lived in a wealthy and influential household with a former slave Epaphroditus. He was allowed to attend schools, and so he attended the classes of the Stoic Musonius Rufus, who later became his mentor. After his release as a slave, he began to teach philosophy himself in Rome. When the Emperor Domitian banned all philosophers from Rome, he went to Nicopolis in Greece, where he then founded his own school and taught there until the end of his life. Epictetus is among the most influential representatives of late Stoicism. Everything we know about Epictetus' teaching is thanks to his student Arrian, who wrote down notes from his lessons in various books, including the Handbook. In this video, I will focus on 5 powerful lessons from Epictetus that can be extremely helpful in our lives. First, don't worry about things you can't control. Epictetus said, "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing." When we worry too much about this and that, it suffocates our sense of happiness as well as our well-being. Usually, our worries are based on things we cannot control. Whether it is economic developments, political decisions, wars, stock market prices, our reputation, our health, or the weather, these are beyond our direct control. Some of it we can influence, but we still have no direct control over it. The same is true for other people's opinions, beliefs, or actions. We cannot control these either. What is directly within our control are our opinions, judgments, and actions and how we react to certain events. When we learn to distinguish between things that are in our control and things that are out of our control, we can focus more on what is in our control and stop wasting time, energy, and worry trying to control the things we simply cannot control. This will give us more room for joy and contentment and direct our focus and energy to the important things that are within our control. Likewise, it will help us make the most of our lives. If a thing is out of our control and we can't do anything about it, why should we worry? Rather, we should focus on our own actions and not on something that depends on the opinions and actions of others that are beyond our control. Second, it depends on your reactions. Epictetus said, "It isn't the things themselves that disturb people, but the judgments that they form about them." As we now know, we cannot control many things in our lives. What we can control, however, are our reactions to events or actions of others. These reactions determine our attitude, our outcomes, our relationships with others, and shape our lives immensely. How we react to things is up to us to decide, and such choices will affect our well-being and therefore our quality of life. We can get angry, worried, or paralyzed for action about external events, or we can understand that these events are beyond our control and learn from them. We can then redirect our focus and energy to the things we can influence and become active with the things that move us forward. What matters is not what happens to us, but how we react to it. How we react to things will determine our lives. Third, in order to learn and progress, you should be humble. Epictetus said to his students, "It is impossible for anyone to set out to learn what he thinks he already knows." When we are open-minded and humble, we are receptive to new or different opinions and we soak up everything like a sponge. But when our ego comes into play, we are arrogant, cocky, proud, and think that we know everything better. This blinds us and closes our minds to new things and makes it very difficult for us to learn and develop. Epictetus wants to tell us to be humble and also accept what we don't know and be open to being taught, coached, or even corrected by others. We can learn something from each person. We can only evolve if we are open-minded and unprejudiced to new things. If we let our ego rule us, we will stand still and we will not progress. Fourth, take advantage of everything that happens to you. Epictetus said, "It is difficulties that reveal what men amount to, and so, whenever you are struck by a difficulty, remember that God, like a trainer in the gymnasium, has matched you against a tough young opponent. For what purpose, someone asks? So that you may become an Olympic victor, and that is something that cannot be achieved without sweat. It seems to me that no one has had difficulty that gives a better opportunity than the one you now have, if only you are willing to tackle it as an athlete tackles his young adversary. Everything that happens to us in life, good or bad, is an opportunity, a chance to practice patience, courage, kindness, or resilience. If we don't let setbacks and adversity overwhelm us, they can make us better and stronger. It is clear that setbacks, adversities, or difficult moments are not always pleasant. But we should ask ourselves, who would we be if life was always pleasant? How smart or resilient would we be if we never had to struggle or push through? How strong would we be if we never faced difficulties? In order for us to thrive, learn, grow, and become stronger, adversity is there. We just need to use it to our advantage instead of being overwhelmed by it. Epictetus illustrated this to his students with the example of Heracles. What kind of a man do you suppose Heracles would have become if it had not been for the famous lion, and the hydra, the stag, the boar, and the wicked and brutal man whom he drove away and cleared from the earth? What would he have turned his hand to if nothing like that had existed? Isn't it plain that he would have wrapped himself up in a blanket and gone to sleep? First of all, then, he would surely never have become a Heracles if he had slumbered the whole of his life away in such luxury and tranquility. And even if he had, what good would that have been to him? What would have been the use of his arms and of all his strength, endurance, and nobility of mind if such circumstances and opportunities had not been there to rouse him and exercise him? Fifth, start living as your ideal self now. Epictetus said, "Tell yourself first of all what kind of person you want to be, and then act accordingly in all that you do. For in almost every other pursuit, we see this to be the course that is followed. Athletes first decide what kind of athlete they want to be and then act accordingly. Who do we want to be? We've all had the feeling at one time or another that we wanted to do something different, but then we ended up not doing it. Maybe it was standing up to a bully at school or at work, or apologizing to someone knowing we were wrong. It may be that we wanted to help another person and then didn't. It may also be taking responsibility for our own physical and mental health with all our habits. We have an idea of what is right, but we don't act on it. As with all things learned theoretically, it is crucial to put it into practice. Epictetus made this concept clear to his students. He said, "If you have not learned these things to apply them in practice, what have you learned them for?" So, in the effort to become a better person, we must give priority to action over theory. Character is built through the repetitive process of acting, failing, and acting again. It is of relatively little use to know what is good or righteous if we do not act on it in life. We must act and set an example for what we stand for. And even if we fail or make mistakes, at least we tried and now we know where we can improve. After all, we did our best, and that's what counts. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, share the video with someone who can benefit from this content. Thank you and stay inspired.